You ever find yourself bouncing along from location to location, following a path, looking for things, picking stuff up? A box here, a chest there. That guy had a cool gun. Yoink. Why is there animal poop in this pirate space station? Whether you're exploring a shipwreck, picking up an item for drop-off, or working your way through the latest dungeon, everybody's looting, but it's broken. The inventory is underfeatured. There's little to do with loot once you find it, and still too few places in the game to do it. Whatever this is, a little exploration, a little investigation, a little chill session with your friends, it's fun. And it doesn't really have a formal profession name, cause you do it anywhere. Hell, there are 2 genres based entirely on doing just this. This should be the best way to play Star Citizen, because it's the most simple game loop there is. Sure, you may visit a new planet, explore an underground facility, or visit a derelict space station for an objective, but you slinked into the dark corners and crumbling corridors for the loot. And unfortunately in Star Citizen, that's just not been a good time for a long time. Alpha 4.7 changes that. With the ability to turn some items you find into materials for crafting, getting a refreshed inventory to help manage it with better features, and a new derelict mining space station to explore and restart are a good step in the right direction, but only just the start. And this video will explain how they almost got us there, and what else the game still needs after 4.7. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. You already know that the best way to play any game is subjective, but there are some things that affect more players than most. Whether you need to gather materials for mining, pick up some ammo for your weapons, move items between boxes during some cargo management, or you're scavenging shipwrecks, just about everyone has to manage their inventory. Now, I'm not going to take you on an exhausting journey through the various UIs of Star Citizen. You can check my second channel for that kind of content, but I will acknowledge 3 significant moments leading up to this point. First was the addition of looting back in 3.15 in 2021. Second was the general period of 2025 when locations actually started to be added with loot rarity and challenges in mind. Alpha 4.7 is the third moment. It doesn't necessarily fix every problem that stops you from having a good experience roaming around the game, but after returning back to the old model in 4.6, I can tell you this new one gets out of the way and allows you to focus more on the good experiences. Cause I'm so tired of not being able to pull a gun off a shelf and place it in my backpack because it's in the wrong kind of container, or needing to close my inventory in one box before turning around and opening the other just to transfer something. But this isn't just a UI issue. Once you've run a location, even if you don't get that one item you wanted, 90% of everything else you can find becomes almost immediately trivial in value. We don't even have to acknowledge the recent inflation that's hit the game. It's just more effort than it's worth to regularly collect everything you see, and really only guns sell for good money. So your inventory is just filling up with old war medals, Valakar fangs, and cool weapons you've found. We've been hurting for a way to trade or break these things down into something useful, something that actually feels like progression. The monotony of this also means there tends to be 1 or 2 main places to farm the valuables, rather than an array of locations with unique things you need to explore and collect. It's basically the opposite of what you'd think a space game would require. Now, I could point to Planet Tech V5, which is going to create different biomes on planets using sets of rules built off machine learning, running on data from Earth and Luna, yada yada. According to several key voices, that's going to include the first version of Starchitect, a POI builder that will allow for new locations to spring up across the planets in the hundreds, supposedly. So obviously there's going to be big changes to loot and materials happening in the near future. But that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. That's the next quarter kind of stuff. We're talking about next week. The locations we're going to be searching, the things we're going to be finding, and the reasons we're going to be getting them. Let's start with the new space stations. At this point, the archetype for Nyx is clear. It's all asteroid focused, major use of local materials haphazardly thrown together. Levski makes this clear enough, but in 4.7, social-oriented space stations are also being added to the Nyx system for players traveling throughout. While these are made for you to rest, refuel, and repair, and meet up with friends, their abandoned counterparts are adding something much more exciting to the game: a new dungeon. I have a lot to say about this new location that I'll save for my full review of the update in a couple weeks, and avoid the spoilers here for the most part. These rock cracker facilities, of which there are many, all of which can be taken as contracts for cheaper prices for the more public ones where you might find other people, and expensive prices for the more exclusive ones where you actually still might find other people, unfortunately. These new locations, though, are general dungeons with a mining-focused payout. You spend the majority of your time exploring derelict tunnels, rooms, and facilities of the space station focused entirely on cracking open asteroids. Naturally, there is a ton of loot to be had, plenty of boxes to be found, and even minerals to mine. There's a new faction that you'll find there and be fighting with some outfits that I think Fashion Citizen's gonna enjoy, and an all-around nice atmosphere to be in. Just like with Onyx, you can get involved if you like with the story that's going on there, exploring the facilities and seeing what it has to offer, but there are plenty of locations to explore and loot around. You'll be fighting off NPCs and ultimately figuring out a puzzle of interactables and various areas around the station. It's going to be fun to follow the story, but the location itself is just adding a good loot playground to the mix. Every single time CIG adds another location like this, the kind that can be found in the future, or instanced for players later, or even simply put out there in the sandbox for you to freely find, it builds the catalog of things for players to do no matter what their approach. Well, whenever they can optimize it all to actually work at the same time. But when the company talks about 1.0, these are the various locations and the storylines that fit them that they want players to go out and loot Goblin. The inventory is obviously crucial to an enjoyable looting experience. It needs to be feature-rich with stack all, move all, search, filtering, and proximity looting. Check. It also is going to need to look pretty decent, with an easier to decipher interface than what we had before. Check. And it's going to need to run well, quickly loading, snapping, and getting things done as soon as you need it. Still no. The new inventory, at least in the PTU, certainly runs better than the old one. It's more responsive, more reliable, and all around an improvement to the experience. But it's still not lightning fast like you would need in a heated moment when you're trying to move something out of your backpack and escape your ship before it blows up. No, you're still going to be waiting for that third row of icons to load. And if there's one thing we can learn from that little genre that's been sucking up a lot of the air in the room over the last 6 months, is that you need a good inventory and good inventory management if you're going to be focused on picking things up and getting out quickly. And yeah, blowing up ships, that kind of means you need to get out quickly. Now, I've seen some great feedback on where the inventory can improve, particularly on Reddit from this user, Zegegomatic. There are several key places that it could easily take a step up, but again, that'll have to wait for back-end improvements. I've personally been enjoying it though. Being able to pull up all the boxes or bodies in my vicinity and move objects around as needed is a huge win. And the quality of life features like the inventory highlighting which armor or weapon I can currently select items for is actually really nice. It speeds up the process of equipping and customizing your gear much more. Looting things from the ground into your inventory is also great quality of life improvement, and it means getting in and out of areas faster. But overall, we're still on the path towards an inventory for a true loot goblin. Crafting is the obvious star of the show coming into the game in the next couple of weeks, even though, as I showed in my podcast I just had with Loud Guns over the weekend, mining's really taken the shine. And that's because crafting itself is actually going to be pretty limited in this first version, with no way to improve the quality of materials, upgrade items, and most items still won't have blueprints for you to get. Now, this is more a chance to introduce the foundation for crafting, the ability to earn blueprints as mission rewards, new mining resource quality ratings, and beginning the balance of materials and what types of items they're applied to. You'll find that armor insulation, rifle barrels, and backpack reinforcements all tend to require the same materials. It makes for a fun beginning to looking throughout the game for actual things of value and commodities of purpose, but it's only the beginning. While this makes for a fun progression system, there's currently no way to track what's needed for the certain blueprints you want without accessing the fabricator itself, or even which blueprints you have unlocked already. You also can't see which missions have the potential to reward which blueprints, and the reward system itself is down to a level of RNG. Dismantling, which allows you to break items down into materials, only currently works for items with blueprints, which is still a limited number of things, and it's still a fairly clunky procedure, even if it does let you queue the jobs up. Ultimately, this is going to give looters more to get from the field, and for the first time I actually feel like I have a reason to go play the game outside of whatever the newest feature is. While we don't have the ability to upgrade things yet, this loop of finding things, breaking them down, and making other things, which I find to be the more interesting way of getting materials, is changing up the way that I play. It is clear that crafting is here to bring armor and gear progression to Star Citizen. It overhauls mining to be a variable in a combat prowess. It begins the player economy, and it gives players something to do besides just trying to make more money. But it is very much T0 as listed. It's not enough to turn the actual process of playing Star Citizen on its head. Yet. And if they can't start adding to this with the 4.7.x or 4.8 patch, I think the novelty could wear off just crafting some FPS armor and weapons. But boy oh boy, Star Citizen Alpha 4.7 is definitely looking to be one of the biggest steps up in the game, especially in the industrial and loot goblin sector of gameplay, in a long time. Exploring space stations, looting that spaceship you just disabled, progressing through the latest dungeon. No matter what you're doing, this has to be the best way to experience the game, because we're all doing it. But for a system that we've waited so long for, we're still missing a ton of quality of life. It lessens the friction we've been feeling in the most basic game loop a game can take, finding and collecting things, but it doesn't eliminate it, especially not on the interaction side of things. It creates more reasons for us to seek out, collect, and use various items throughout the game, but it does it on a very limited scale to start. And we got another interesting location to take a shot at exploring to find said things, but it's still just one location of many needed. As is often the case with Star Citizen, the potential is definitely there, and the path looks pretty interesting, but looting is still not the best way to experience the game. If we see movement on this by 4.8, and CIG has managed to keep adding blueprints and materials to keep players interested, then this could be a successful rollout and improvement to the main loop in Star Citizen. But that's a big if. This is just my first impression and preview of the patch. I need to get a lot more hands-on before I can make any definitive calls about really how great this is. I just recognize we still got a ways to go. If you want to cover the whole process day by day, Spacemoto 2 is publishing daily, and it's where I post news, deep dives, podcasts, and insights into the development of the game. I'll still be posting long-form and supporter videos here, like my recent comparison between Tesla and CIG, or the look into mission givers returning to Star Citizen this year. If you'd like to support us and make what we're doing possible, catch these videos early every time we release them, check out our podcast live and get a couple extra perks, you can support us on Patreon or right here on YouTube. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope you learned something new in this one, and I'll catch you in the next.